Hello, my name is Kurt Lindsay, and along with my classmates today, we will be representing the Sustainable Water Policy class led by Dr. Finewood here at Chatham University. In addition to learning and discussing sustainable water use and policy in this class, we have also been working with the Brightwood and Brighton Heights local neighborhoods in the area in order to help contribute suggestions and lay the groundwork for the Woods Run Corridor project. So the basic goals of this project, as stated by the community, include strengthening connectivity and relationships in the area, to advocate for the community in hopes to attract new people and business to the area, and to improve the neighborhood through strategies using green space beautification, safety and transportation, and stormwater management. To give you an idea of where these neighborhoods are located, this is just on the north shore of the Ohio River, just outside the city, with the Brighton Heights neighborhood bordered in red, and the Brightwood neighborhood just to the south of it. Where these two neighborhoods intersect is where the Woods Run Corridor lies, and this is the area that we have been examining over a semester. So our role in this project has multiple branches. One of our roles is the community assessment, and have been providing contextual relevance and information to begin the study. Another part of our role is to provide best practices research and potential ideas relating to the stormwater retention, multimodal transportation, and green space and beautification. We hope to provide these ideas based on the community's needs and their relevant contexts. So the methods that we took in order to take on this task was first deciding to divide into 4 different groups. These are based on the community's needs as well as the need for continuous community involvement. After we had our groups decided, we did a site visit where we were able to meet some of the stakeholders and gain information, first-hand experience, and understand some of the issues that the community is facing and would like to address. We also examined some of the existing research using databases like Pittsburgh SNAP in order to gain some information about the demographics of the area and environmental context. We also looked at the Penn State report, which was done on the same area, in order to understand how that added and what we can contribute to that. Moving along with our methods, the next thing we did was to plan and carry out a community meeting. This acted as a focus group in order to gain feedback from the local community. Once we had a clear understanding of what the community expects from the project, we began to continue on with our best practices research in order to understand how we could provide suggestions for the area. And next we developed a final deliverable to give based on the suggestions and our combined findings. So to give you an idea of what the community assessment group did, which I was a part of, we noticed things like there's a very significant amount of landslide prone area. This is a limitation to consider when considering suggestions. However, there is also a limited amount of greenway and park space and a limited amount of bicycle and walking when it comes to modes of transportation, and these we all see as opportunities for improvement. At the community meeting, it was basically structured around our 4 groups that we decided upon. The community assessment, our group led the meeting and helped to facilitate it, while the other 3 groups each had their own interactive stations. Within these stations, they would discuss ideas, their specific desired outcomes of the project, and their issues of primary concern. Participants and community members were also encouraged to write notes on maps that we provided and draw routes, provide suggestions of things that they would like to see changed. After they were done speaking with one group, the community members would then rotate to the next station to ensure that every community member at the meeting was able to work with each part of our class group. The conclusion of the meeting was open to further questions. We also provided suggestion cards in order to get more feedback and provided them with our contact information in order to keep establishing our connection with the community. We recommend to continue to incorporate the local community representatives in this process in order to ensure that the results will meet their people's expectations. At this time, I would like to introduce Josh, who will be discussing the role of stormwater management within the Woods Run Corridor project.
Thank you, Kurt. As Kurt said, my name is Josh Zivkovich. I'm a Master of Sustainability student here. And as part of the stormwater management team, we were really focused on dealing with issues of high water runoff within the area and also flooding problems. So we set aside 3 goals to do this. Our first was to assess community needs, which was really a twofold process. We looked at the existing conditions of the community and what we saw as issues, and then we gathered that information from the community meeting to where they could give us better insight of the areas that are problematic. Next was investigate stormwater solutions, so look at the best management practices to deal with some of these problems. And then third was to integrate multifunctionality. We wanted to make sure there's overlap between all of the groups and that the purpose of these sites serve multiple community needs, not just the purpose of stormwater runoff. So as part of our existing conditions, we looked at the watershed area. As you can see, it's 1.96 square miles extending into Ross Township in the north-hand corner there. Within the area, there's an average slope of 10%, which is moderately high, could lead to potential dangerous situations with high runoff rates. And you can see they receive an average annual rainfall of 37 inches within this area. According to the 2001 National Land Cover data, 35% of this watershed area is forested and 27% is impervious. These numbers may be a little biased, one because the watershed incorporates mostly all of Riverview Park, and it's from 2001, so there's likely greater impervious surfaces with urbanization continuing. I also want to point out that you can see the stream there, although most of it is culvert and underground, but the USGS software imposes that through elevation levels on the site. So I did something similar. I took a look at our site and I just drew a simple hydrology map of the area. So likely Woods Run Stream used to run right down through our potential project areas that we want to acquire for the Woods Run corridor, and then it kind of mirrors Lucky Avenue down here. Also, you can see there's high flows of water entering into the site, which means there's good potential for stormwater mitigation techniques within those areas. And just to get a sense of what it looks like with the aerial land cover underneath. So at our community meeting, we asked each of the 3 groups that passed through to identify the areas they saw as most problematic, or where they want to see potential solutions to these stormwater problems. So you can see here that there's a good cluster around the Woods Run corridor, not necessarily in it. This wasn't a bad thing because it shows there's great potential for more watershed scale approach to these problems, and we can view the Woods Run corridor as kind of a starting point to these stormwater solutions. So at the meeting, we really identified 2 main concerns, which was flooding and rapid water flow that seemed to be brought up quite a few times, and also that they want rain gardens, porous pavement, and stream restoration techniques as potential solutions. So it's great that green infrastructure is identified as one of the potential solutions to stormwater management techniques, but you have to remember that green infrastructure is very broad and it can mean a lot of different things to different people. So when stakeholders sit down to plan this green infrastructure site or sites, they need to be on the same page, make sure that they all are expecting the same thing out of the site. And that's not only to maintain the stormwater purpose, which is really keeping it out of the sewer systems and promoting natural infiltration and evaporation, but also the other multiple functions that green infrastructure can serve to meet different community needs. So instead of rain gardens here, we identified bioswales because they're very similar, but they can likely handle the greater capacity or flow rates of an area that has a 10% slope. And according to a case study in North Carolina, where they implemented bioswales along commercial parking lots, they saw a 50% reduction in stormwater runoff. So that's pretty significant, and it also extracted 25 to 50% of observed pollutants to the vegetation in the systems. And also they're generally less costly than gray infrastructure technologies, so it's always good benefit to save money. On the other hand, porous pavements, they cost more upfront, but they have a longer life expectancy of 25 years compared to 10 or 15 years of normal asphalt. And in the winter months, they use 75% less road salt than to de-ice them, which is a good cost saver. And they're also less likely to get potholes because it has the ability to expand and contract more easily. However, they do need vacuum annually as a maintenance strategy. So moving forward with the project, we recommend that the Brighton Heights and Brightwood communities establish a real solid framework. They have a lot of examples to choose from. The Borough of Etna's Green Streets program is one of them that they just implemented phase 1 of their program that is expected to take out 640,000 gallons of water from the sewer systems, which is a pretty significant amount. Also, it's imperative to create partnerships. Alcosan is an obvious one since the communities are right north of Alcosan facility, and it would be mutually beneficial to show that they're reaching out in the community to help deal with these problems. The community has driven this project so far, but as they move forward and get into more technical planning phases, there's got to be a way to facilitate that community input and maintain their say throughout the project. And like I've been saying, it's got to concentrate on multifunctionality. So it's not just meeting the stormwater purpose, but also other community needs, which will keep the community invested in these projects. Lastly, if there is a larger scale watershed approach, grant opportunities are going to be the way to fund it, and we provided some of those within our document to help the community move forward through this project. So I'm going to let Phoebe speak to the beautification of the Woods Run corridor.
My name is Phoebe Armstrong, and I was a member of the Green Space and Beautification Group. A unique aspect of our group is that beautification projects will be literally changing the landscapes of the area, and it's been proposed that more green spaces are added in order to create a fresh, lively environment that lends itself to outdoor recreation as well as be aesthetically pleasing. Beautification is an important aspect of any city planning design. And so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the existing conditions of the area as well as community interests, and then finish up with our recommendations. So as far as existing conditions go, we notice a lot of vacant spaces and empty lots around the corridor, as well as a lot of impermeable surfaces and few to zero trash or recycling bins. And there are also hard to access areas, as a lot of the sidewalks were kind of unwalkable. So for community interests, we at the meeting assessed what people in the community really wanted to see out of this project. And some of those were tourism and commerce. So they wanted a lot of young people to be in the area, and they suggested a few things like installing climbing walls or having benches and just more green spaces to get people out of their homes and into the community. And as far as commerce goes, I know one point of interest was Don's Diner, and people hope to see maybe an expansion of the parking lot as well as an eating area near the diner itself. For accessibility, again, walkable sidewalks and maybe installing street lamps, and we also had community members interested in bike lanes, which was already discussed a little bit. And for organizational support, I know that there were a few projects already implemented as far as a tree planting project and a garden installation project, but the community also had wanted to install a larger rain garden and didn't have as much support with that. They just couldn't find any organizations or anybody interested in really spearheading that project. So before we went into the meeting, our group brainstormed what we consider to be best practices as far as beautification goes. And we came up with a few, signage being one of them, so really inviting people into the community. And signs can be great because they fit almost any budget. They can be large or small, and a lot of them also lend themselves to having some sort of community identity on the sign in terms of artwork, which also goes along with murals. Here's an example. Pittsburgh is known for their murals. There's, I think, about 356 in the city of Pittsburgh, and they do a really great job of highlighting the culture and the heritage of that community. Curb cuts and bioswales, along with rain gardens, help manage some of the stormwater runoff, as do urban trees. But another great aspect of them in terms of beautification is you plant a lot of native species, and so it increases species richness as well as urban biodiversity. And urban trees are great. They not only help with stormwater runoff, but they've also been shown to reduce crime in areas by 52%, as well as increase property values. So funding can be an issue with a lot of these projects, but luckily Pittsburgh has a plethora of organizations that are willing to help. A few of these are the Rain Garden Alliance, which they will come in and help you manage a rain garden as well as install one. And they're a great resource for partnering organizations with other organizations in the area trying to do similar things. Tree Vitalize Pittsburgh has actually started up their planting season. They've planted over 20,000 trees in the Pittsburgh area since 2008, and I believe their last tree planting was in Wilkinsburg. But they'll come into the area and give you all the tools you need and the manpower and everything to get some trees in the community. And the Sprout Fund is another great one for murals because they have a downtown artist project. So they connect artists with local organizations when they have interest in putting a mural up. So some of the recommendations based on what we found to be best practices as well as what we learned from the community meetings are just kind of summarized here. As far as tourism and commerce goes, again, having some type of inviting sign into the area, letting people know where they are, installing benches, trash and recycling, and just creating more green spaces. So these green spaces can be whether they're gardens or maybe a park or a natural playground, just anything that'll get people out of the house and into the community. Accessibility and safety, having street lamps and walkable sidewalks is really important. And as far as overall beautification goes, again, green infrastructure design, it doesn't have to be just one thing. A lot of really small projects can be implemented, especially with the help of some of the local organizations. And getting in contact with these organizations and really establishing relationships with them and creating that partnership can be very beneficial when moving forward. So I'd like to pass this off to Sam with multimodal transportation. Thank you.
Thanks, Phoebe. So my name is Samantha Bigley. I'm an undergraduate in the sustainability program here at Chatham, and I will be representing the multimodal transportation research group for this project. We defined multimodal transportation as a transportation system that uses personal vehicles, public transportation, bike routes, and walking as ways to get to and from destinations within the community. So next I will just outline our research process. We started with assessing initial conditions within the community. Then we went on to research best practices and community interests. We did that through the community meeting. And then finally we'll make some recommendations based upon our findings. So initial conditions. The Woods Run corridor has been marked as a safe route for bike traffic by Bike Pittsburgh, and it currently serves as a connector between the Three Rivers Trail along the shore and the communities up the north side. There are two sets of stairs within the corridor's immediate area. These stairs have been noted by community members as areas of interest for improving walkability of the corridor. Infrastructure that would support safety and convenience of multimodal transportation is sparse and incomplete in the corridor. There are no bike racks in the area, there are no signs connecting the riverfront trail to the north side communities, and there are no signs designating points of interest for walkers and bikers in the community. Sidewalks are not consistent along the corridor, and the sidewalks that do exist are not in particularly good condition. This, combined with the lack of street lighting along the corridor, makes for unsafe walking and biking conditions. So these are some of the existing projects and organizations that we came across during our research. It's just important to recognize that we're not the first group to contribute to the improvement of multimodal transportation in the Woods Run corridor. There are a number of existing projects and organizations. One of those is Northside Bike Ped Committee. This is a subcommittee of the Northside Leadership Conference. They are a self-described group of concerned residents, business owners, who advocate for improved infrastructure and continued safety. They encourage and promote riding and walking in the community and support accessibility for cyclists and pedestrians. A couple of their goals are to improve bicycle and pedestrian signage, to promote the installation and use of bike racks, establish a bike lane and bike trail connection between the existing riverfront trail and the Allegheny Commons Park and Riverview Park, and to work with other citywide organizations to coordinate and implement policies, plans, and procedures to upgrade the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure on the north side. Right now, they're working to get signage implemented in and around the corridor. The signs have been produced, but they're waiting to be installed. One Northside is another group that's worked on this project. So Northside community leaders are currently having a community-wide conversation and working to gather data about the neighborhoods that make up the Northside. They hope that this will be the beginning of a large-scale effort to work towards a shared agenda for progress and creating a better community for all Northside residents. And this group is supported by the Buell Foundation. And then finally, the Brighton Heights Citizens Federation. They developed a Brighton Heights Wellness Park proposal that outlines the Woods Run corridor as a transportation hub for multimodal transportation in the area. And a link to that PDF can be found in our document. All right, so these are the main community interests that we found during the community meeting. The community is looking for increased walking and biking safety, clear signage, connectivity to surrounding neighborhoods and to Riverview Park and the library, and then the incorporation of the stairs into the multimodal transportation plan. These were the best practices that we found in our research. You'll notice they really closely align with the community interests. Increased route safety through traffic calming has been known to increase walkability and bikeability in the community. Traffic calming can be done by narrowing lanes through implementing bike lanes or widening sidewalks. Clear signage and advocacy so that people know where they can go within the corridor. Provide biking and walking infrastructure, so those bike racks that aren't there, the better sidewalks, that kind of stuff. And then provide a place to walk or a place to bike. This is something that Phoebe touched on with her beautification recommendations. Making a site interesting or useful to a person is really key to getting them to bike and walk in the area. And these are our recommendations for moving forward with multimodal transportation along the corridor. We recommend collaboration between community groups and the city government so that they can move forward with actually implementing the infrastructure. Also collaboration amongst the community groups themselves. Right now they seem to have very similar goals, but they're not really closely working together. Then after collaboration occurs, they should develop a plan for long-term maintenance and funding. And then after the implementation, effectiveness and frequency of use should be monitored so that we know that what's being done is actually contributing to the overall goal of the project. These are the next steps for the overall project that we've developed. So we'd really like to see a formal Woods Run Corridor Planning Group created so that you guys can have a more cohesive way forward with this. And then that formal group should make a formal list of goals, a detailed maintenance plan, a continuous evaluation plan, and then finally apply for funding. And then these project outcomes are what our class got out of doing this project for the community. So we were able to develop a holistic understanding of social and environmental context within the community, provide suggestions based on community input and best practices research, and then we were able to collaborate with the community in order to promote safety, connectivity, and sustainability along the Woods Run corridor. Finally, on behalf of the class, I would like to thank the Woods Run community for allowing us to use this as a learning experience, and we wish you all the best moving forward with the project.